Hello and thanks for joining me for another Oda episode of the Eternal Lore. On the last Oda episode, we saw the borders of Oda come under attack once again. Amako forces moved up on Umi, and we had to send our forces from Owari led by Nobuhide to go and relieve the castle. On the way, he absolutely demolished the Hattori army, which had showed up out of nowhere, doing very poorly. Meanwhile, over in South Shinano, the Uesugi were attacking our border there, but Kiyonori and General Toyotomi were ready to defend against them, and with the noble sacrifice of a few units in front of the line, we easily defeated the Uesugi forces, despite some actually quite poor maneuvering. Back down in Umi, the Grand Oda army ended up facing off against a giant Amako army after they brought up reinforcements to attack the castle. They focused all of their attacks mainly on one side of the castle, however Oda's new matchlock Ashigaru destroyed the enemy wholesale, and then the Chosakabe landed an invasion force in Owari, so now we have to defend against that. Let's continue. Is it endless? Will this anti-Oda coalition simply keep attacking until they start sending the old women and young children into battle? It could seem that way, but the nature of those plans is beyond such commitment. It is more likely that they will eventually see that the merits of fighting us are overshadowed by the merits of fighting each other. They will lose trust, a few disputes will turn into a war, and finally the pressure on our men shall be relieved. We shall then have our window. So we're back to the Oda lands, the situation much clearer than it's been in the past. Umi is cleared out of enemies, however there is a Chosakabe army assumably waiting to attack Owari Castle. All I can do at the moment is end the turn and see if they do. A Shimazu fleet's up to no good. That's the first time I think we've actually seen Shimazu putting serious forces into the field. The Chosakabe army marches to the northeast, assumably going for the second bridge to Mino. Hattori forces also appear to be going for Mino. Up in Echizen, Amako survivors from past conflicts for some reason decide to attack the castle. We have a massive advantage. I quickly auto-resolve that assault and defeat the remainder of those survivors. Not 100% sure what their motivations were, and now they're dead, so I guess we'll never know. So coming into the next turn, we look at our messages. First it tells me that the Shimazu invasion force has landed and a Honma invasion force has landed, and apparently they're both in the same place according to the Zoom 2 dialogue. Not sure what that's about. We've also been sabotaged in various places. We've mastered an art, which is good news. We've got extra diplomatic relations now. And there's a conflict of belief going on in Kaga. It seems that some Christians are wandering around attempting to convert the province, but I can execute their ringleader in order to reinforce the Buddhist faith in the area, or I could actually work with that Christian guy and try and spread Christianity, but there's no reason I want to do that at this stage, so I'm executing the guy. Now let's head up and look at these invasion forces. Here's the Honma force, only small, nothing really to worry about, and you can see it's telling me there's a Shimazu invasion force here as well, but I'm afraid there isn't. I'm not sure what the game got wrong here. Perhaps it was somehow like deleted by the Honma invasion force landing on top of it, I don't know. So not really having anything to do with that situation, I had to just ignore it because there is no Shimazu force for me to deal with in theory. Now back in Owari, the Chosakabe force, as you can see, is trying to get around to Mino by the looks of things, so I decided to send Nobuyuki back to defend Mino. This is also going to be good defense against the Hattori should they decide to attack. If both of those enemy armies attacked at the same time, we'd be in quite serious trouble, but I'm going to hope that doesn't happen. I'm also going to try and steal this Metsuke onto my side, and I succeed in doing so. That monk has now converted 2 Metsukes recently, very good. I'm also trying to get rid of the ninja I've been trying to get rid of for a while in Wakasa. He's the one who keeps sabotaging everything, and I fail in that. Bad news. So now it's time to move to the next turn. Let's see what all these enemy armies actually get up to. Oh, look at that. A Shimazu force actually was there. It seems it was just invisible, or perhaps still stuck in the ships, or in some way managed to make itself impossible for me to interact with or see it. So what I thought was a glitch in the game actually was an entirely different kind of glitch, and now I'm in big trouble because a giant Shimazu force is about to attack the castle, and if I lose this castle, our defences are going to be severely breached and the enemy can easily defeat us with strategic manoeuvring. So let's head onto the field and try and defeat these sneaky invisible attackers. Luckily for us, the castle here is actually pretty hefty. It's got 3 tiers to play with, so we'll be able to use a lot of our matchlocks to good use by firing down at enemies on tiers below. The Shimazu strategy was to position most of their forces on the western approach to the castle and have them advance slowly, while they had small raiding groups advance quickly up two other sections of the castle on the southwest, south, and then a tiny little group here on the northeast. At first I thought this group was just archers and that they were just going to try and attack this section of the wall with archers, and my strategy to that was simply run away so that the archers would have to get very close to have any opportunities to fire inside. But actually there were some other enemy units coming up there. I believe it was 2 units of cavalry, yes, here they are, who came out of the trees, which meant I had to readjust my formation quite quickly to get men back into that area ready to defend against them. So I've positioned all the troops where I need them upon seeing the enemy's formation, and now I just sit and wait for them to arrive. And here they come. The first unit to arrive are these honor bushi from one of the enemy's attack groups. The other attack group coming in on the southeast side of the castle here, consisting of 3 regiments of heavy units. I think it's Taichi Samurai, honor bushi, and Nodaichi Samurai in that group. Defending against them I have just 1 unit of Yari Ashigaru and some Matchlock Ashigaru, a true test of Ashigaru power against that elite battalion of samurai. Over here you can see the honor bushi coming over the wall. They're taking fire from some bow Ashigaru, but the bow Ashigaru are quite inaccurate and aren't very able to hit many of them. So the honor bushi are going to come in with ease and start fighting with my Yari Ashigaru there, a fight which won't go in my favour unless I can get some help in there. Here come the enemy's heavy samurai charging the Yari Ashigaru line, but you can see they're being cut down as they advance by rifle fire from the walls above them. And then here on the inner tier I have more archers who are looking down over this section and are able to provide even more supporting fire. So I have actually 2 or 3 ranged units firing into that engagement. So even though my unit of Yari Ashigaru is severely outmanned, they're going to be getting quite a lot of help from the other Oda men behind them. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to win out here. You can see tons of enemy bodies already as the enemy begin to get their full numbers into the area. Here there's Unabushi. I've already lost 2/3 of their regiment coming in, but now they've kind of stopped losing women, I should say, because they've got so close to the wall that my archers actually can't fire down. They don't have line of sight to hit them because I'm too close. So it looks like it's a little bit of a poor placement with my Yari Ashigaru here. So now they're proceeding to eliminate my Yari Ashigaru one by one. Luckily there aren't too many of the Unabushi left, so they can't kill my men particularly quickly. Now we received news that we've lost a tower over here. Those enemy cavalrymen who dismounted have come up and have already reached the 2nd tier actually. All I have is some Yari Ashigaru locally to defend against them. So I deployed my reserve, which was Katana Samurai, to go and take out these enemy Ashigaru, something they will achieve with ease. My men are dramatically stronger, but of course the enemy do still have their bow samurai outside the castle who can fire in, and Katana Samurai are actually particularly weak against fire from bow samurai. And what made things worse in this situation is you can see here the Katana Samurai kind of glitched out and bunched up on the bottom of the ramp and couldn't get into combat, and this blob was just absorbing arrows from the enemy, and I lost quite a few men actually, at least 20 or so, while they decided they actually needed to get into combat properly. Now back on the southeast side, the enemy have actually been defeated and we took minimal losses. It was a fantastic result. Those Yari Ashigaru held them very well and the range units absolutely demolished the enemy. Look at all the enemy bodies on the floor, barely any Oda ones by comparison. Absolutely fantastic. Even the survivors from the enemy are now being cut down by the combined matchlock and archer assault. So I freed up those units to go and fight elsewhere on the battlefield, which is perfect because the enemy's main force has only just started its attack, coming in on the west side with the majority of its units. Here they charged a spear wall and you can see tons of the enemy soldiers getting cut down. Behind the spear wall are bow samurai, and that little combination there should be able to kill hundreds of enemies. I remember a few hours ago you men were worried that you'd never seen a Shimazu warrior before. Well, now look at you. Now it seems you can hardly wait to show them new things, like the unbreakable Oda spears, the godlike fires of the matchlocks, and the unprecedented humiliation of a meaningless death. So fight on, brothers. Show them why men find new speed when running from the Oda, and how they find their courage is quit and their blades have dulled when foolish enough to fight. So all I need to do at this point in the battle is hold out. You can see my forces are being overwhelmed. However, the enemy's forces are mainly Ashigaru and mine are samurai in this stage anyway. So at least if I can hold out long enough, the enemy's morale will break. And helping their morale to drop is the matchlock fire coming from the wall behind them. So although the enemy have the numerical advantage, those matchlocks are gradually whittling the enemy down. They're not being put to their best use because they're only firing at unarmored Ashigaru, but still the enemy will not like what those matchlocks have for them. Here you can see the unit of long Yari Ashigaru defending the bow samurai. It's getting into a little bit of trouble. The enemy are really swarming it, but again, look at the pile of bodies on the floor in front of it. They're doing fantastically. barely losing any troops at all actually. Here you can see their commander for some reason decided to break the spear wall, setting a bad example, and he is immediately killed. So I guess that shows you shouldn't break your phalanx formation once you've set one up. Yeah, you heard it, Rome too. Anyway, it looks like these men have now cleared out the enemies in front of them. They're being attacked quite heavily in the flank there, but most of those men aren't really exploiting the advantage they have. They're just waiting to fight. And now, more Oda reinforcements from the east side of the castle are beginning to arrive. Here you can see I bombarded this blob of Ashigaru with fire arrows, very demoralizing, and some of them actually rout as the fire arrows come in. Back on the northeast side, only the enemy's bow samurai remain, and they're actually going for a sneaky raid on the Tenshu, trying to go straight for the inner sanctum. But as they ran towards the inner sanctum, they actually came across the line of sight of a unit of matchlock Ashigaru who killed 2/3 of their men, so they're no longer really a threat. What is a threat is the fact that the enemy have now defeated all of my men on the west side of the castle's outer tier and are storming the next one, so I'm getting my light matchlock Ashigaru back to stop them being eliminated. So now I need something to hold these guys in place, and I didn't have any melee units left, but I did have this unit of bow Ashigaru who were spare, so I threw them in to act as the blockage to hold back these enemy Ashigaru. Now they're not going to do too badly against them either, because lone sword Ashigaru aren't actually that good in melee combat. And anyway, I have nothing to worry about because you can see from the balance bar that the fight is almost mine. The few enemies left outside here are being cut down by bow samurai, and the survivors from the long Yari Ashigaru unit are doing a good job of pushing them back, holding them in place. I am taking friendly fire, but it's worth it for the huge numbers of enemies I'm killing. You can see the enemy have actually deployed their cavalry reserve on foot to continue the battle. So now these men are eliminating my Yari Ashigaru outside, but I'm sending my long Yari Ashigaru to support them. Meanwhile, a sneaky raid by their general and some extra units coming in behind all of my troops on the second tier could have genuinely threatened me. However, I managed to hold them in place with some Yari Ashigaru here, while some matchlock Ashigaru on the walls behind them in the gatehouses started firing on these enemy units. The enemy's heavy generals bodyguards are going to be eliminated by this, and I think also some light Naginata horsemen coming on foot, and they're going to be eliminated as well. More light cavalry as well coming in. So now all I have to do is mop up survivors. That Yari Ashigaru there is having a great time, about to get himself a nice light cavalry kebab. And this is a decisive victory for the Oda. Fantastic news. From the balance bar in the beginning, it looked like we would surely lose that battle. However, actually, it was a moderately easy victory. We've completely disgraced the Shimazu, and Kage is safe for now. So at least that glitch didn't ruin everything for the Oda. So let's check out the battle results. It looks like we did lose a few regiments, but they were all garrison forces, so it's not so bad. The loss of 700 or so men to kill 2,000, and you can see here that the matchlock Ashigaru performed quite similarly to the bow samurai in terms of getting kills using that defensive sacrifice strategy. And of course, they're only about a quarter of the price and have far less upkeep, so they are really a superior defensive unit. Now in the end turn sequence, we see there was a Tokugawa invasion briefly there, but taking my mind off that is the fact that the Chosakabe are attacking Mino as I thought they might, and actually things aren't as good as I thought they would be. I thought that by sending Nobuyuki back to defend the castle, I'd easily be able to defend it against them, but the balance bar says otherwise. The enemy actually have a really ideal army for attacking a castle, and my garrison is quite small with only 2 units of the legendary matchlock Ashigaru and no bow samurai at all, so it looks like this battle is going to be much harder than the one we just saw. Now, unlike in the last battle where a big castle made a bad situation better, here a tiny castle is making a very bad situation worse. The enemy are attacking from all sides except the southeast side with a variety of units. Most of their archers are focused around the southwest area, so that's where I focus many of mine in order to exchange blows with them. They have a whole bunch of heavy samurai coming in from the north side, against which I have positioned the majority of my force inside the castle to defend against, because for the moment that's where, at least in my opinion, the majority of their force is coming. Of course I don't actually know at this point because the enemy has lots of ninjas. I don't know where they're going to be. Over on the east side, the enemy are beginning a small attack using some lone sword Ashigaru here and some katana ninjas. I have some archers right on the outside of the wall firing at the enemy's lone sword Ashigaru, and we actually kill loads of them as they come in. However, it's the katana ninjas I should have made my men focus on, because they're the guys that are really going to do the damage, and unfortunately they haven't killed any of them so far. Once they get inside, things are going to go very badly for those archers. On the north side, the enemy are also making their approach with their heavy samurai about to come over the wall and face my men. Some of them can go straight for the inner sanctum if they want. A real danger which could lead to this battle ending prematurely. Here they're no Daichi samurai charging up, their swords glimmering in the evening light. Very nice. And following them are some samurai retainers, elite swordsmen who will be difficult to defeat in battle. Meanwhile, on the southwest side, they're attacking the inner sanctum with katana samurai. I do have my own samurai inside, but the enemy are already whittling down my numbers with their bows. Keep that banner high! The stand we make here is a stand not just for Mino, not just for our lives, but for Oda. For the sake of the Oda homelands, we must kill and die beneath the flower this day. I may be the youngest and most foolish of the Oda family, but the blood of my brother and father flows within me, granting me the blessing of Bishamonten. The eyes of heaven are on you, men. Do not show the gods any reason why it should not be the Oda men who survived this day. So the main part of this fight involves defending against the enemy attackers on the north side of the castle where they're putting the majority of their forces. I have some Yari samurai support on the wall above them by matchlock Ashigaru, and they're going to have to hold out against about 10 regiments, so I hope they're up to the challenge. Meanwhile, on the east side, my Yari Ashigaru are doing an okay job holding off these enemy katana ninjas and lone sword Ashigaru. I have archers on the wall behind them who are providing supporting fire, but they're only bow Ashigaru, so not the kind of supporting fire the matchlocks would have given. But still, my men are doing a good job of locking the enemy's elite troops in position to allow the arrows to take them out, because of course katana ninjas are particularly weak against arrow fire. That is the one easy way to kill them. And just to make sure the enemy have a really bad day, you can see I'm piling in some flaming arrows as well, just to really pierce their armour and take out as many of them as I can. So they won't hold forever, but they're doing a good job so far. Now let's head back to the north side. You can see the enemy have surrounded my men. They've got a massive numerical advantage, but the matchlocks keep on firing. And the enemy have tons of armoured samurai here who are going to be particularly vulnerable to that matchlock fire. Here on the west side, the enemy are again attacking with heavy samurai, fighting here with Yari Ashigaru and katana samurai. However, again, I have matchlock Ashigaru firing with an excellent enfilade position on them, absolutely annihilating the enemy's ranks on the west side, so I wasn't worried about that at all. What is worrying is the south side, where the enemy are gradually cutting their way through my men. I have one unit of katana samurai and one of lone sword Ashigaru, and we're fighting with 2 units of enemy katana samurai who were somewhat depleted by their attempts to get inside the castle. That's the good news. The bad news is that my men are being depleted by the enemy's bow samurai fire in that area. So actually, it's kind of an even fight. Now here on the north side, I've lost almost everyone on the outer tier. The enemy are about to break through, and of course if they come up the wall, they can easily defeat my matchlock Ashigaru in combat, and they'll have a free run towards the Tenshu capture point, which would end this battle prematurely, and that's definitely caught me out in the past. However, I managed to smoothly slide in a unit of katana samurai who snuck around from the east side and are now locking the enemy in position once again. You can see the enemy have deployed their general's bodyguards to this fight. They're piling everything in because they know that's the one place where the fight will be decided. Over on the west side, they've already been defeated, as they have on the southwest side. Only their archers remain, who are now skirmishing with the few bow garrison survivors I have. And actually we're losing that fight, but it doesn't really matter because all we need to win is this one here. The enemy have tons of men everywhere, numerical advantage, but we have killed their general already, so the enemy's morale is going to be failing in this area. Although the bad news is that it looks like these mounted katana Ashigaru are now climbing the walls to fight with the matchlock Ashigaru. However, the majority of my Ashigaru aren't going to be disturbed by that, so I'm still going to be getting tons of fire on the enemy and slowly destroying their numbers. My katana samurai who are holding them back aren't going to die very easily, especially because the enemy has tons of spears in this area who are going to struggle to get past them. I believe it's some spear ninjas in there. The enemy's general bodyguards will do well. They're not going to do well enough. The enemy had a Taichi samurai in there as well, who actually in theory could have eliminated my katana samurai, but their morale was just too low. The majority of them rout towards the end, and we've actually won out in this sector, which means basically we have won the battle. The only enemy units remaining are some of their archers outside. A couple of them rout when they realise the battle is lost, but there was one regiment that refused to run away whilst the rest of their comrades did, so Nobuyuki himself charged out to eliminate that unit. Incidentally, Nobuyuki had already successfully defended the Tenshu capture point from the enemy's katana ninjas who did break through on the east side at one point, so he was doing a fantastic job already, and now he makes it even better by slaughtering another 50 enemies. So he has had an excellent day on the battlefield, as has the Oda clan. Mino has been defended, the Chosokabe have been disgraced, and the Oda homelands are safe once again. The battle results screen looks good, losing a couple of garrison regiments there, and you can see that once again the Matchlock Ashigaru have really outdone themselves, killing hundreds of opponents for pretty much no losses on their own regiment's part. Excellent work. The Hattori are bringing up reinforcements to their little army on the crossroads between Mino and Uumi. It's starting to get a bit more powerful, but still not really worried about it. It's still relatively small. The Yamako are up to no good there in Wakasa, attempting to get rid of one of my monks. Luckily they failed. But now they've really begun their advance. They're bringing in 1, 2 stacks, 3 stacks full of troops. Suddenly attack Wakasa. Wakasa is in huge trouble. However, the Yamako don't attack the castle. They would have definitely won if they had gone into the siege assault. So I don't know what they were thinking. Perhaps they think they need even more reinforcements, or are put off by the fact that Oda have won countless siege victories in the recent turns. So this gives me a narrow window. I need to get some more troops to Wakasa, and I need to do it fast. But there were other threats closer to home I need to deal with as well. The Tokugawa there in Owari threatening to attack the castle, and we have the Hattori who are actually blocking the road between Uumi and Wakasa, which means I can't reinforce the area until I've dealt with those Hattori forces. So I need to come up with a plan that's going to hopefully allow me to defeat all of these enemy forces and at least give me a chance of winning if the enemy attack Wakasa at the end of this turn, which would seem like the most likely thing they would do in this case given their huge advantage. So my first strategy was to send a ninja up to attempt to sabotage one of these enemy armies, which means if they do attack, they'll only be able to use 2 of their stacks and not 3. However, that fails, so that's one possible part of the solution out the window. We're going to have to think of something else. I think basically I'm going to have to abandon Uumi to some extent because I need to pull forces back in to deal with these internal threats. Here the 2 Hattori armies are standing. Even combined, their forces are quite weak and inexperienced, so if I can get an army up there I could quite easily be able to whip my way past them. So I decided to first send Nobunaga up near them, ready to attack if the next part of my strategy goes well. The next part is to use Nobuhide to go and attack the Tokugawa forces in Owari. Now because the Tokugawa have camped so close to the actual castle, I'm going to be able to use the castle's massive Ashigaru garrison in the battle led by General Takeyama. Which means actually we're going to have a big advantage in this fight, especially because Nobuhide's men are very veteran as we've seen before and actually perform extremely well on the battlefield. When I get close it looks like we actually have a huge advantage on the balance bar as well, so I thought we may as well auto-resolve this fairly easy battle and get rid of the Tokugawa threat. This means Owari is now safe and phase 1 of the plan to resolve this mini crisis has gone well. We've dealt with the first of the enemy's major threats. But of course we have also used up all of Nobuhide's movement points, so there's nothing else he can do to help us. The men inside the castle though are still able to move, so perhaps they'll be able to help. And along this vein, I eventually came up with a plan whereby I would split Takeyama's army, leaving some forces behind, link up with a few of the forces from Mino to create a new composite army of all the defending Ashigaru, and then use them to attack the Hattori on the crossroads. Again, we had a large advantage on the balance bar once Nobunaga's forces are taken into account, so I'm going to quickly auto-resolve this fight and whip through them. We killed about 1,000 for a loss of 500, not that bad for an auto-resolve. The enemy weren't entirely defeated though, which means their zone of control still covers the roads, which means I still can't walk past them, so I need to go a little bit further and actually try and finish them off. I was trying to judge how strong they were and whether it was worth sending both armies to finish them off. In the end I decided I probably don't really need Takeyama in this fight, especially because he has the inferior army, so I thought I'm just going to use him to set up an ambush on the roads here, so if any more Hattori forces come up they'll be ambushed by Takeyama. Same for any Hatakeyama forces which might come from the west and try and sneak into Mino. Meanwhile Nobunaga is going to move up and just wipe aside the remaining Hattori forces. He wins with ease, so that's 2 more enemy armies defeated. The Hattori are doing particularly poorly in this war, as I've noted before, and this extra defeat only compounds that fact. So now the question is, does Nobunaga still have enough movement points to continue on to Wakasa? Well, you can see from the yellow aura that he can get into the province, but he can't get all that near the castle. But when I checked, yes, he actually can get just near enough to reinforce the castle in the event of a siege assault. However, it is very risky. Am I really going to save the castle, or am I just sending Nobunaga and his men to their premature deaths? As I always expected, giving our men the Nanban weapons has been a huge boost to our power and the morale of all our other troops. Now the odds being against us seems like no problem at all, and yet this winter has brought more tests that can only be completed through bloodshed. I and all of our men dream of the season when a fresh levy of men is not required. It is unlikely that season will occur until either we are all killed or our enemies finally fall. Which way it will go will be known before the spring thaw is here. Being somewhat unwilling to make that decision right away, I decided instead to actually come and focus on what's happening on the east side of the Oda domain to buy myself some time for thought. Things over here are going quite well by the looks of it. The Yamanouchi have pretty much cleared out all of their armies in North Shinano except for the castle garrison after I started pushing my way in the last turn, and now I can use both my armies to get a nice auto-resolve victory on the castle itself due to the balance bar being somewhat in my favour there. It probably would have been somewhat beneficial to lead this assault myself, but it would have been quite boring. We've seen this battle many times before. So the auto-resolve goes ahead, and actually it's a fantastic result from the auto-resolve. I don't think I really could have done better myself, and Toyotomi levels up as well, so even more good news there. The castle is ours. North Shinano has been reclaimed for the Oda. The Oda domain of a few turns ago has been restored, but of course we've got a long way to go to restore the total Oda domain at the height of our power. So now I just need to decide what to do with the forces I have hanging around here. They could go and start assaulting other provinces, but really I didn't really want to do that because I just thought North Shinano would be too exposed to be attacked again. So instead I'm taking a defensive posture whilst I consolidate my forces. Now it's finally time to make the decision on Nobunaga's men, and I decided to go for it for the only reason that Wakasa is pretty much like a cork in our strategic defense network. If they break through at Wakasa, the provinces of Echizen and Kaga will almost immediately fall because I'll have no way of stopping the enemy from just pouring in, and they'll have a new way from which to attack the Mino, Owari and Umi provinces, which would mean the things there are going to get even worse. They're already under such heavy attack. Having more enemies coming down from the north wouldn't help. So I've committed to battle, and now I'm ending the turn. Let's see what happens. In the Chosakabe turn, yet another Chosakabe landing force attacks Owari. I'm going to have to deal with them in the future. It's the Amako's turn. What are they going to do? First they send in a Metsuke, a fleet, but they don't attack the castle. An extremely bold move from them, because now they're going to suffer winter attrition and give me a chance to move up more men to defend the area around the castle. They must be waiting for reinforcements. It's the only explanation. If they really are trying to starve us out, that is a terrible move. The Hatakeyama there, seeing our weakness, moved 2 armies towards Umi, so it looks like an invasion is about to begin in Umi, so I need to get back there, as well as dealing with the Chosakabe in Owari, and as well as sending more forces to Wakasa to make the inevitable battle that must occur here at some point actually possible to go in my favour. So, I need a new special strategy. This time, I'm going to ignore the Chosakabe in Owari in a bold move and march west with Nobuhide's forces to challenge the Hatakeyama. So I'm moving him near the castle to defend it for now. Takeyama's force, who could also have gone back to deal with the Chosakabe, are not going to do so either. I'm going to use them to go and support Nobunaga's defense support position on Wakasa Castle. So now the numbers at Wakasa are beginning to even out. We have about 2 and a bit stacks versus the enemy's 3. And a lot of our men are quite veteran. However, they are trapped outside the castle, so the enemy can still easily beat all of those armies by sneakily capturing the Tenshu if they did engage in a battle. Over on the east side, I decided to go for an offensive strategy, moving Kiyanori's army eventually northward to try and wipe out the Honma threats that keep coming down to Kaga, with the hope that that area will stabilize as a result. Meanwhile, General Toyotomi is going to stay and defend North Shinano in case the Yamanouchi come back. Now in Umi, I'm moving Nobuhide's men to assault one of the 2 Hatakeyama stacks. He's going to be supported by the men from the castle, and if he can win this moderately even battle, things in Umi will dramatically improve. But what actually happens in that battle? Well, we'll have to wait till the next Oda episode to find out. that's all for this episode, but to see how the rise of Christianity begins to challenge the Takeda's ambitions, join me next time on The Eternal Law.